Hello guys, Bistek Talk here again with a great episode because we have the greatest guest, Nurdaulet. He is an organizer of startup events and a VC scout who will share his experience and insights on generally on startup and investment part. So it's going to be incredibly useful for startup founders who are at the beginning, at the middle, and even
at the later stage.
Yeah, right, at exit. So, yeah, welcome, Nurdaulet. Thank you very much for joining.
Thanks a lot for hosting me. I think for audience's sake, we kind of swapped our places now from the last time we've met each other. When I was actually hosting you at one of the events when we were gathering Central Asian panels. So I think it's great to be on the other side, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's our pleasure to have you, and I hope listeners will also enjoy our conversations. And so, well, okay, let's start with a short introduction. Nurdaulet, always Nurdaulet. What do you do? What are you busy with now?
You can call me Noor if it's easier.
Noor.
That's also like other way people here in England call me. So it's I guess it's a very diverse yet fairly homogeneous background in the sense that it's around finance and investments. It's just kind of focusing at different stages. So I started off studying finance in the UK, then I moved to more capital markets roles, working at London Stock Exchange, slowly moved into asset management, and from there was going from very kind of late stage asset management and developed my interest in the more early parts of it, which is where startups are. And lately I've been engaging as a kind of non-profit initiative to build community, particularly startup community here in the UK, in London, predominantly focusing on Central Asian part where I'm from Kazakhstan. So yeah, and now we're kind of developing and advancing every time. So as you mentioned, sort of started with events, very small events, went all the way to bigger ones, hosting like big events at companies like Amazon and Facebook. And the next kind of stage for us is to build a proper physical hub where we can have all the events ourselves instead of every time asking for free event space, but also have it as a go-to place for people from our region to network, to get help, to meet each other, and potentially co-work in the future.
Oh, all right. So you want to build a space, like let's say space that would give an opportunity for startup founders to learn, to support each other, and to grow. All right. Well, that's great. But you see, I watched another podcast with you in it, and they touched your like corporate background.
Sure.
It was quite a long journey, and you kind of decided to switch that, especially go into startups. It's completely different, and now you're building this hub and community, which is also, I would say, is not in a corporate, not in an atmosphere. It's something different.
Definitely.
So why did you decide to go into startup world? Of course, I would say that your project right now is also kind of a startup to build this kind of community. And why did you decide to go into this? Was there like a story behind it? Was there a like personal experience that pushed you to that field? So.
I think the answer lies in the question itself as well, in the sense that because of the difference in the culture of like corporate to startup, where there is more fluidity, there is more flexibility to build stuff, and the gross margins are much higher, where you can learn more, develop more. That's number one. Number two, I think I do still love finance aspect of it. I do still love the kind of investment side of it. So I think of it as building communities, almost like investing in talent. In my sense, I'm just investing my time, and obviously a bit more by creating the hub, but it's really about believing in the talent from our region by seeing how much potential they have. And particularly in this case, I think it's still related to finance by the aspects of a bit opportunistic view. So my opportunistic view on this is it's like a bet you have, like when you're making any investment, or like let's say when you're buying a stock, you believe that Apple would shoot and like be worth much more.
Yeah.
So in this case, I'm investing my time, I'm investing my kind of relationships to build something great and big in terms of the network, as well as I believe that talent that I'm meeting every day can really benefit from that. So it's kind of mixture of a lot of things when it comes to the actual factors, but there is also the timing aspect that it didn't happen all in kind of one moment that I kind of realized, oh my God, we have a lot of talent in the region. It was happening along kind of many years where it actually started off with during COVID. So I was helping my friends with their startup, and I was like an HR there. So I just had some free time during weekends, so I was helping them to hire an engineer. And I had no clue what engineer is. Like if we talk in our parents' language, like whoever touches computer is an engineer and IT genius, right? So I was that type of person. I thought, okay, whoever knows or studied computer science can do an app. Like I had no idea what front end, back end DevOps is. And the way I learned it was through hiring process, because you were interviewing someone every like multiple interviews during the day. And at the start of the day, you wouldn't know what back end and front end is. By the end of the day, you would have some idea. And by the end of the week, you would be able to already challenge the person on the other end. So that was a way I kind of learned. And actually one of the people who pushed me to that was a person from Tilek Mamutov. I think he's got like a startup that helps talents to kind of get hired abroad. He's from Kyrgyzstan. And back then during COVID, everyone lost their offers, right? Because they couldn't fly. And he had a big pool of smart people who were supposed to be working at Google's, Facebook's and Stripe's, but they couldn't. So I was very lucky to get hold of that list of 100 people and talk to the best of the best. And they kind of taught me through the interview process. And there were many different kind of situations like that during the last 5 years where I was more and more convinced that the talent in our region is of such a high quality that something has to be done to unite them and to help them out as well.
Yes, you touched a very, very good point. When I moved first to Turkey, I was surprised seeing that the students, I moved there as a student, that the students were not very driven in learning, or like they weren't very driven in working or studying. I compared just with my classmates and group mates in my own country, in Kyrgyzstan and Turkey, and there was a huge difference. That of course everybody knows that in more developed countries, there must be a better education system, or the quality of the education should be better. I'm not complaining about the quality of the education at all, but I'm just saying that people, generally the students, were not very driven, were not too driven. And I guess that our Central Asia has amazing potential. And as you said, like great talents, but they are just a little overlooked. They are not marketed enough. So I think what you're building can help those talents, can help talented founders to come up and announce themselves and declare themselves. Oh, that's great. And you also touched my question I was going to ask, like about the mission of your hub. It's called Eurasian Startup Hub, right?
Yeah.
Eurasian Startup Hub. So you already told the mission, I guess.
Yeah.
But if there are anything else that you want to add on the point,
I guess that's about it. Like exactly what we're driven kind of through. Basically, going back to economics and kind of finance style is demand and supply, right? We have this huge supply of great talent, and there is a demand because, as you compared, like there is a big gap between developed and developing or emerging markets where people are more driven, they're more hungry, so they're really demanded. Like those kind of talent is highly appreciated in a global kind of scale. So our purpose is to help talent meet each other, help them meet not only each other but also the wider ecosystem. So purpose of the hub is not to only kind of create a safe place only like for Central Asians, but also start connecting them with the wider venture and startup world here. So connecting them with any service providers in the startup world, connecting them with venture firms, any other investors, angel investors, etc. Because that's usually, talking about marketing, that's usually what's missing. And we're trying to kind of complete that puzzle.
Yeah, all right. That's okay. I see. The next question just came up because you told me that this is not just a safe space, but it's better. It's more like a connection, like building a connection with other communities. What do you do exactly in order to make it happen? I mean, what are your plans? What kind of events, or not only events, maybe programs you are planning in the future, or you are already doing in order to make it real?
So I'll start with like the very beginning, how we kicked off. So it was very basic and intuitive, is to create some events like networking events where people talk to each other, maybe just have fun. What came out of that is people started talking to each other, finding co-founders. So during those kind of events, I've already seen in the startup language like a validation or like market where we could see that new co-founders were coming up with different ideas. So, okay, I was like, okay, that networking thing actually works. The next thing we did is we started bringing different panel speakers, completely different from all types of domain expertise, various parts of the wider region. Some of them were HRs at big tech companies, some of them were experienced founders, etc. And we've received the feedback from our audiences that they're learning a lot. Some of them went on to talk and get an advice. Some of them were connected through some of those founders to investors. So again, more validation, more listening to your, not client in our case, but like to your audience. And the other types of events we did was with accelerators. We were very curious to hear how accelerators work. So we had a panel of 3 accelerators, YC, Techstars, and Antler. And some of the people started getting referrals to the program. So that's like, it all came very natural because we started seeing how those events help and then how those events lead to some sort of partnerships. And we recently had Google reaching out and we had a good discussion, and they're very interested too to kind of provide their services to our specific kind of audience, such as like cloud credits, etc. So there are many angles of attack, I would say, to help our community. That's what we've been doing in terms of events and then translating into some sort of a help. The plan is, with the physical hub, is to scale that. Basically, hub is for scaling because you had that limit of hiring venue all the time. Now with the hub, you can host some events. You can host your podcast, for example. You can host some other communities to come in and host their events, which will create just more audience for everyone. But on top is also potentially doing some incubation program with some partners. That's also in plans. I guess there are many things we can do. It's just, again, trying to stay focused and listening to your audience, trying to understand what is the immediate kind of a need in there.
All right. Okay. So you're steering your project in kind of a natural way where the demand goes, then you switch it, you pivot it in that term, and that's how it is shaping to be.
Yep.
Yeah, great. So, okay, I forgot the question, sorry. All right, yes, my next question is this. Right now, I'm sure you've already grew some kind of community of startup founders and VCs, and as you said, well, accelerators. What founders? I mean, I know all the founders have their merits and their talents, but which founders, like which startups in your community are reaching like incredible success, or let's say are growing exponentially? Not even exponentially, but what startups are getting like their investments? Can you like give us the names of the startups, or is it all right for you to give it?
I haven't asked
You
them.
can give us
I haven't asked them yet, but I can definitely kind of tell some maybe examples. Yeah. There was a case of multiple startups. So like one startup from the region was constantly coming, and we were having 2 events, and we were discussing different topics. And very recently, they have raised their first round, and we were kind of actively before discussing different ways how that can be done. Is it the angel network, etc.? So they were very kind of thankful on that part. Another one was, which we had no clue, but I feel like we could have been of more help. We could have added more if we had like a physical hub back then. But there was a guy who was coming to our events before even start, like from February, and he's now at Y Combinator in current cohort.
Accelerator, right?
In current cohort. So there are different cases again who are both successful globally, like in the US, who are successful locally. But we are seeing some of those cases, but we do believe that having the physical hub will structure it. That's also a way to structure things, because you have a proper view of the things, and also you can potentially help them with, basically, as I said, there's different services. And another point we'll have in the hub, it won't be huge, but we will have like a little workspace for maybe 3 to 5 startups at most. So we already have a short list of some startups who we were actively talking to before, who are part of our events, who will be residents at our hub, which has just much more culture to the hub, as well as helping the founders themselves. And in addition, it helps anyone who's coming to the hub to learn from those founders at any time they want.
I see. That's great. Okay, in my personal experience, I'm gonna ask you, because we are right now in pursuit of investment for one of our ideas. Okay, for example, and we would love any help or support that we could get. So I think that we have to be a part of your hub.
Consider you are.
Yes, exactly. So how would you be able to help us? For example, we are just in idea stage or pitch deck, and we are reaching out to investors. We don't want to build the product before like getting some kind of validation and a little investment first, because we have done that a couple of times already. We built using our own budget, we invested time, but the result of those attempts were not very happy for us, because we just ended up losing money and time. And this time we want to go another way. So yes, how would you be able to help us?
I think there are so many different ways to help, and there are so many different stories of founders, and usually it's like every story is unique. I think in your case, from what you've just described, I guess in a very short format, is you're kind of looking at super early stage investment.
Yes, exactly.
And I think all the points you described, that you kind of let's say not successfully done some things in past, is actually good, because it just shows to the investors that you're kind of dedicated, you're rethinking every time, you're not just completely disregarding it and just going like corporate job, right? So I think it's all the great signs. It's probably, there's 3 things you can do even before spending money, which is you can start talking to your potential customers from wherever you are in the world, because now you have LinkedIn's, you have social media, where you can at least get, if it's B2B kind of startup, get at least 5 to 10 really positive validation. If it's B2C, again, there's so many different ways, like getting a pre-signups to your website, etc. But some sort of validation always helps. However, that said, there is an investor for every startup. Right. You just have to find it, right?
Yes.
So, and UK is amazing in terms of the early stage investments because of this SEIS and EIS.
Which one you said?
UK.
Oh yeah, UK.
Yeah, UK.
Okay, yeah, here, as well,
because
right.
of SEIS and EIS schemes, which means the world of angel investors is very kind of open to you. The problem is you have to find them, right?
Right.
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to kind of also cover in the sense of
where we need the support.
We hope to bring more different angel groups. We hope to connect to angel groups, and there, because there's so many different angel investors, there's more angel investors than VCs, right? So there would be an angel investor who would love your idea, I'm sure, and even be a kind of a smart investor too. So kind of help with what you're doing. So I think that's on the kind of money side, but also there are other things such as, I'm not sure what exactly you're building, but if it's something that you require credits on, we can connect with different credit providers for cloud, and they will give you beyond what there is in the market. just because
nice.
we have a specific partnership with them.
Oh,
That's one.
great.
Another point is connecting with legal providers, accounting providers, etc., etc. So yeah, I'm sure there will be so many ways we can help.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for building this. This is actually amazing, really. Yeah, and I have a couple of more questions, and that's it. So I saw in your LinkedIn that you are also a scout, and from the podcast that you've been, I heard that you've had experience in investing, right? Okay, so yeah, please, can you tell us from the investment viewpoint how was the experience? And I'm sure you've heard, being in startup world right now, you've heard a lot of pitches and a lot of ideas. Were there anyone that just stood out and they said, wow, yes, this is the one, this is one of the ones?
Yeah, on the first point, yes. So I'm a VC scout. What VC scout basically means is you help VCs connecting them to talent, and actually how the whole thing was the hub started, because I was VC scout even before building communities. That kind of was a transition point between corporate to the community builder part. That's where you connect with talent. But then in terms of the actual investing, I'm not investing as much as I would have loved to, so I'm not as active on that front. But there are some couple of startups I have invested as an angel checks. A lot of them are on kind of, well, actually a mixture between early to kind of mid stages. But to answer your second question is in terms of some great startups I've seen in past. I mean, obviously there's like probably I've seen hundreds or maybe thousands. I didn't count of different decks and live pitches. But the thing that usually stands out is always a story, especially if it's an early stage. Right. Story matters, because when you have to think of like the judge or investor on the other side, what's his day going like, what's his thoughts are at, and usually it is someone coming into a pitch competition or looking through the deck, not like waiting for that startup to pitch, right? They have their own day, they have seen maybe 50 more decks before that, or have heard 20 more pitches before that. But what you have to focus is on what makes you stand out, and usually it's some sort of a story, because in the end we're all humans, and you have to tell a very logical path how you came to that decision to build this, how you found the problem, and then be clear about the solution. So obviously that's the key part. That's what usually the investor remembers, whether who the founder is, how they came to that, does it make sense? And then they will schedule different calls to kind of go into the nitty-gritty kind of numbers. But at the very start, it's all about having this link of looking at the founder, looking at the pitch, and answering to themselves is like, does it make sense?
All right, I see. Yeah, very good point. So just to finish up, before that, I would like to hear where do you see this startup hub in 5 years? What do you want at the end with this community or with this hub?
5 years is a very long period for us, but to look ahead. But when you're working with the talent, it's an endless market, because there's more and more talent coming in every year. There's more and more talent out there in the region. The way you can engage and be like a bridge between UK and the region there. So I think there is an infinite market to kind of help and address. But in terms of how we can help, I think we should definitely go beyond of what I've described. Like we should definitely be aiming to not only connect, but be help ourselves, not only focus on one or two services, but and connecting to those services, but we should be providing those services ourselves again. So maybe, I don't know, like accounting services, instead of connecting at the start, maybe we will be in 5 years helping founders by providing those services ourselves at a much more affordable rates, etc. And of course, the point that every founder wants is the investment side. So we want to be in the position where we not only connect, but potentially scale, for example, my angel investment efforts to something bigger, where we finally do this direct help, more like material, substantial help of going beyond services or like connections to the real input into the startup and founder.
Real investing yourself into that. Oh, I see. Well, it's a good vision.
Thank you.
Are you planning to kind of monetize it, or is there a business model that you would like to implement to your hub?
It started off as I was mentioning, it's just like casual, like a community building, and it is a non-profit initiative. We're even registered as a non-profit. We haven't, well, you can call it investor, but it's actually grant providers. So we have approached our kind of immediate network and those stakeholders who are most interested in the region. And in our case, that was Astana Hub, which is like a tech park. They have given us grants to build this whole initiative, and we're building network in the whole region. Like in Uzbekistan, we're talking to IT Park. In Kyrgyzstan, we're talking to HTP, and we're talking to more like in Azerbaijan. We plan to kind of talk to wider region. And we have also, my co-founder is from Latvia. So we are not only focusing on kind of Central Asia, but going beyond to Eurasia, where there is Eastern Europe, which has amazing talent as well. So he's covering the Eastern Europe story, and we have some grants from that part of the world as well, where he's from, Latvia. So yeah, that's the part. I don't think we'll ever be for-profit organization. It's a non-profit story. We of course aim for sustainability to continue helping, but whatever extra we make is always reinvested into the community, either by giving more services or creating a bigger space.
All right, nice. That's great. And we would like to, I guess, finish off with valuable insight of yours. I mean, you are seeing right now so many founders, new talents, and what would be your advice for them? Like one or two advice that you've seen, that you've kind of observed and drew for yourself, a lesson or advice.
I think probably just one for founders is to not forget about themselves, which is like probably a bit weird way to put it, but they have to remember about like self-care, in the sense of usually what I see is founders being super obsessed with ideas, and that's how it should be. They have to be obsessed with ideas, but it's not only the idea that drives it, it's a founder. So they have to take care of themselves both mentally and physically. They shouldn't overburden themselves, be drowned kind of with different thoughts. They have to be in control of their both mental and physical state. I think it's so important because I think there is this kind of notion of like being a leader and hard work, which is all, of course, true. But again, the idea itself is nothing. It's the founder and execution that matters. So because if idea was kind of unique, then any other founder could repeat it, right? If it was all about idea. So founder has to take care of her or himself in that case, and remember, always kind of get realigned of like why they are doing it, what are they doing it for. And like in my personal case, for example, was the Startup Hub, although it's a nonprofit, as you said, it's still challenging as if it's a startup. But the way I kind of always realign myself is I kept going back to the original reason why I'm doing it. Whenever it was super hard, I was like always trying to find a moment to talk to some of our members of the community. And believe me, because that was the reason the hub was created, I would get sparked back up again to kind of, okay, this hub needs to be done, because I could see for whom it's being done, for smart talents from our region. So I think that's like from personal experience, remember why you were doing it, and remember to take care of yourself.
Yeah, because that's what's going to push you forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice. That's great. Thank you very much, Nur.
Thank you
for sharing your story, for sharing information about your hub. And any founder, at what stage they might be, whatever stage they might be, I think they can find something. They can find it may not be the direct solution, but a next step to the solution in your hub.
Exactly. Even the ones who exited their startups, we have already cases when they're coming to our hub and giving back to community by helping. Right. So it's a full circle.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.